This podcast is part of the Game and Entertainment Network. Visit tgenetwork.net to find the latest episodes from all our shows.
It's time for AggroChat, the official podcast of the Tales of the Aggronaut blog and stalwart gaming community, where we talk about stuff and things, and the stuff about the things, and sometimes gaming. I'm Belgast, and let's start the show. Hey folks, it's that time again, time for another episode of AggroChat. This is episode 185. Tonight I'm joined by Ashgar.
Hello.
Grace.
Hello.
Kodra.
Howdy.
And Tam.
Hello.
So, for the most part tonight, we are just going to talk about Star Wars The Last Jedi.
Maybe stop listening if you haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, this is going to be a full spoilers show because at this point it's fresh in our minds, and in theory we would be recording the best show.
This is your chance to go away.
Yeah, like I am talking to give you time to hang up the phone and walk away. I saw it Thursday night, and then I saw it again today. When did everybody else see it?
Also Thursday night.
Thursday night.
I saw it Thursday night and again last night.
I also saw it Thursday night with Tam and Ashgar. So what did everyone think of it? Let's start with the non-spoilery stuff first.
I have really mixed feelings. Like the first time I saw it, I was largely positive, and the second time I saw it, I maybe started having a few problems with the movie. But they're like, I mean, it's weird things, I guess.
I saw it and I loved it. It might be my favorite It's my favorite Star Wars movie.
Yeah, better than Empire, full stop.
It is very much not that for me.
I don't like Empire, but I did like this one.
I liked this one a lot, and I still have not unpacked it enough to figure out exactly where it places in my list, but it is certainly an incredibly good Star Wars movie.
And I guess I don't want it to come across like that I didn't like the movie. It just isn't my favorite. Like it's far from the bottom, but it's kind of comfortably in the middle of the pack for me.
So I'm going to open up with this one because we were talking about it just before the show started. I don't know that I can talk about this one without talking a little bit about the prequels.
Okay.
And it is super en vogue to hate the prequels, and there's a good reason for it, but it's also a reason that it forgets what the prequels did that was really important. I like Star Wars because it sparks the imagination, not because it is a beautiful story, because it's kind of, honestly, they're all kind of a disaster storytelling wise, but
some more than others. But what it does is paint this picture of a setting that is fantastic and you want to see more of, and it's expansive, and there's interesting corners to it everywhere. And the thing that the prequels gave you, that it's easy to forget if you were already like deep into the expanded universe, it's easy to forget that those were never canon. Those were never really Star Wars. They were Star Wars adjacent, and maybe you believed them because it felt good to believe them because they expanded that universe. But the prequels were where you got away from, desert planet with not very much, with one notable city on it. You got to these expansive planets that all look different, and different cultures and societies, and how the galaxy works when it isn't people fighting with lightsabers. All of the parts of the universe that aren't what you're watching on screen, that's what's hinted at in the prequels. And it's hinted at...
Before we start getting angry messages.
The what?
Before we start getting angry comments, prior to the whole Disney thing, they had a concept of movie canon and everything else canon.
Yep.
And everything else canon could be considered completely canon, and other things would assume it as canon until it contradicted a movie, in which case it was not canon.
Yes. And...
Which is why more movies, more things could be established.
We also, I mean, most of the stuff that they talk about was told in this like novel form, and we never got to see them in the visual medium of film, which is what Star Wars ultimately is.
Yeah.
So you could imagine them, but like getting to really see the alien worlds, I guess I can understand that perspective.
Because the other thing, the two big things that added to Star Wars visually, like in the medium, showing you things outside of the expanded universe books that really caught on a wide scale, were the prequels and the Old Republic setting. And both of those, I think, do the exact same thing, which is expand the universe.
Well, and you honestly nailed the reason why I can continue to watch these movies, because I mostly focus in on the world building aspects, because you do get to see a lot of areas that you never would have seen before.
Yeah.
And the thing is I don't hate the prequels. I'm just supremely disappointed in the prequels.
I hate the prequels because I was supremely disappointed by the prequel. And also, like, I have a very different perspective, I guess, because for me it's not so much the world building as it is the story and the characters that I love, and the laser sword battles. And, like, sure, the prequels had some pretty good laser sword battles, but they had bullshit stories, terrible characters, and so that's sort of why and they were supremely disappointing as a fan of the original trilogy. So,
yeah.
Like, I felt betrayed by Star Wars for a long time. And it's one of the things that was so great about The Force Awakens for me, is that suddenly it had totally rekindled my love of Star Wars, because suddenly, Star Wars can tell a good story again. It can have really amazing characters again. Like,
yeah.
It's not going to be miserable and a letdown forever. Like, it can have cool laser sword battles and have decent characters and story again.
And I think that's what the Old Republic delivered on, and why it's so much better loved than the prequels for the most part. Like the Old Republic, as in KOTOR, KOTOR 2, etc. Like that whole setting, not so much any specific game or anything.
Well, honestly, like, KOTOR is a lot of the reason why I was super disappointed in the prequels.
Yeah, because it delivers on new aspects of the universe.
Like, classic era Star Wars. Like the older era of Star Wars, when everything was big and grand, and, you know, had these massive social systems like the Jedi Order and, you know, the Old Republic. It nailed that aspect so much, and also gave me stories I cared about, and also gave me characters I cared about. And then when the prequels landed, it was a mess. Like, from the moment it started, it was a mess.
Yeah.
And so I can sit down and watch all of the prequels. Like, I can ignore Jake Lloyd, and I can ignore Jar Jar Binks, and I can ignore the horrible Naboo love scene, all for the payoff of getting to see, you know, Jedi Knights running around the galaxy doing interesting things. But it's just disappointing that, you know, we can have the amazing Clone Wars animated series that nailed everything so perfectly, but we can't have that in movie form.
And so here's where I return to this movie. But sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think that there's also a difference between a movie and a TV show. One of the things that, and frankly, even a video game, one of the things that's interesting is, like, how much Star Wars builds on this whole golden age storytelling of things used to be better. Now we're at the point where everything is bad, and all of the stories are all of the Star Wars movie stories are happening at the point where everything is awful, because it's this story of rebellion and resistance, which is not what you're seeing in some of those games and TV shows, except for Rebels, which is great.
So, probably unpopular opinion, the Clone Wars television series is amazing, and I don't think it could have existed without the prequels.
Oh, well.
I don't think it would have been anywhere near as good if the prequels hadn't been as bad as they were.
I feel like the Clone Wars television show took every bit of character building that should have happened in the prequels and put it in that show.
Yep, because it left these big gaps that they were able to fill. But brings me back to The Last Jedi. I watching The Last Jedi thoroughly repudiate so much of like the core backbone of Star Wars at every moment while still being thoroughly Star Wars is awesome. I wasn't excited about movie a year Star Wars until I watched this.
Man, my first impression upon like revisiting, talk about a second movie. It is so very much a bridge to movies 1 and 3, to the point where this is a movie where they start off fleeing, like, this is one long extended scene that starts before the movie opens and ends after the movie closes. It's literally just one long chase scene, and the ending is they get away and they're still running.
And yet, in that one long chase scene, there's so much character development.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And I guess, I mean, so here's where I break out my first problem with the movie. Is it felt like it was nothing but character development and a whole lot of nothing actually happening.
I mean, this is
Mass Effect 2.
Valid.
Yep. Yeah, no, it's Mass Effect 2.
I mean, because I guess it feels like we spent an entire movie like spinning our wheels, and we left with
something's definitely happened.
Something's definitely happened, but we left with none of the big questions that I really wanted answered.
Oh yeah, you did.
We had some huge questions answered.
I mean, some didn't get answered. Where did this Snoke guy come from? Who is he? Doesn't matter. He's dead.
That was the number one I cared about. Like, seriously, that is the number one thing I want to know.
The underlying foundation of the movie: who are Rey's parents? Doesn't matter. Who is Snoke? Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
That's what the point of the movie is that the answers to those questions don't matter.
When are the old guard going to come and save us? They're not.
Yeah, the old guard aren't going to come in and ride. You're not going to have like the cool hero from the first movie, the like cool adored hero from the first movie isn't going to make some brash decision that flies in the face of the much more experienced generals and saves everybody. Like, no, that's not how it works.
There's a very good answer to who is Snoke. He's a Sith master who did not read up on how Sith lore works.
Yeah, he is somebody.
But like, where the hell did he come from?
Where does anybody? Where
matter.
did Rey come from? Where did the kid with the broom come from?
Both of those things deeply matter to me.
And that's the thing. That's the whole point. So much of Star Wars is this like a tale of Skywalkers. Nobody in the universe matters unless they're tied to the Skywalker family. And now you've got Snoke, who's from somewhere else. He's somebody with a lot of power who stepped into the void left by Palpatine and Vader. There's Rey, who comes from some people.
Middle of nowhere.
Pretty much nowhere.
And that's and the reason that's important is because the answer to that question is it doesn't matter because it could be anybody. You don't have to be a special legendary Skywalker to be special in Star Wars. And that's so awesome.
It's just unsatisfying.
The Force is with all of us.
It expands the universe in such a huge way because it takes it from, and that's it, like the entire prequel trilogy, the entire original trilogy is all like this one person is the most important person in the galaxy, and we're gonna follow them over their entire life from beginning to end.
And nobody else comes even close to mattering.
And it was cool, but now Star Wars is for everybody.
Yeah, and that's the thing is it doesn't feel that impactful if you've spent a ton of time in the expanded universe or if you've spent a bunch of time in Star Wars games, but the thing was that all of those were wishful thinking. All of those were like, I hope that this is true. And now, but the movie could always trump them. If the Star Wars movie had come out, if Star Wars had come out and been like, well, really nobody matters except the Skywalker family. They're the most important thing. And like Star Wars is just the story of Skywalker descendants and their close companions doing crazy stuff to the galaxy over and over and over again. It could have, and it would have overwritten everything that happened in every other part of the EU and everything. Whereas now it is official. Anyone can be the most special. It doesn't matter where you're from. It doesn't matter who you are.
And I guess the thing is, like, I'm not so tied into there being a chosen one. It's just I'm big into the lore of the world, and now there's this giant chunk of the world that, like, we'll probably never know about because they decided it didn't matter.
You mean,
like, I just want to know. I want to know where Snoke came from. I want to know something about Rey's parents. I don't need them to be like some legendary connection back to the old series. I just need them to exist. Like, this is the reasons why things happen.
What Kylo says?
I don't believe what Kylo said at all. I think that's
right.
bullshit.
Kylo's right.
He's probably right.
I mean, there's a reason why when Rey asked to see who her family was, she was her own answer.
Kylo also didn't answer. It's worth noting, Rey knew the answer.
Yeah.
She was just unwilling to say it.
Because Rey wanted to be special because of where she came from, not because of who she is.
And she answers, Kylo confirms.
Yeah. Because what possible satisfying story is there in parents who would abandon a child on a planet into slavery? You got to be horrible people. I think that there will be stories told about where Snoke came from.
Yeah, but I mean that's the one I want to know more about because.
But I don't think
he
they
had
need
to
to
have
happen
come
in a
from
movie.
somewhere.
Yeah,
I still also
sure.
I suspect we're going to find out at some point outside of a movie.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what happened with Palpatine. I mean, there were plenty of books written about Palpatine. Like, you don't know where Palpatine came from.
I was so happy to finally see on film the proper progression of Sith apprentice and master.
Yep. Which is another thing that's never been canonized in film.
I mean, the prequels go into that one.
The prequels talk a little bit about it, but you never actually see it happen on the prequels.
It's true.
They hint at it. There's a lot of stuff that Star Wars has hinted at, but never actually explicitly. I'm
pretty sure Palpatine says it in the third movie, but he's still maybe not entirely a trustworthy figure.
Yeah. I think this could have been a movie about deep reveals about where Snoke has come from and what happened with Kylo Ren and where Rey is from. And I think, and like, what's the deal? Why is Finn special, et cetera, et cetera. And I think that it would have been less satisfying for tying up those story hooks because it doesn't expand the world.
Well, and it was satisfying to learn exactly where Kylo Ren came from.
That's true.
Like, that was important, and that was main character development.
Yeah.
On multiple points there, because you're seeing something about him, and you're seeing something about Luke Skywalker and his fear.
Yeah.
I mean, it was interesting to see both viewpoints, because they were the same event, but there were vast differences in the way that the events played out in each of their minds.
I mean,
yeah.
it's a huge, additional example of the old Star Wars adage about telling something from a certain point of view.
You mean lying about it?
This movie, more than I think any other movie, really did a good job of trying to film the really spiritual, weird uses of the Force.
Oh, yeah.
And, we saw a lot of Force mysticism that we don't often see in Star Wars movies. The Force is hand wave, hand wave, hand wave. You can do cool, you can do telekinesis and use a lightsaber.
Lifting rocks.
But, we're gonna have a conversation between two people who are not in the same place. And, they're not really both aware that how they are doing this. And it's oh, that's a really cool thing that's going on here.
Well, and it definitely seems like once the conduit was opened, it's kind of permanently opened.
Which is a fascinating inversion of the original trilogy.
This movie was this weird amalgam of Return of the Jedi and Empire Strikes Back to me, in that it did a lot of the same sequences, but they were oftentimes flipped on their head.
Yeah.
I mean, it ended with the Hoth sequence.
Well, I mean, it had the Hoth sequence. It had the sequence in Return of the Jedi where Luke is trying to turn Vader and Vader is trying to turn Luke.
Mm-hmm.
It had the whole running and hiding from the Empire thing, albeit, at the speed of the Al Cowling's, car chase. Like, I have no idea how a shuttlecraft... Okay, so first of all, I want to talk about my annoyance with Canto Bight as a whole. Like,
Casino Planet.
What? Just the whole sequence of events there. It's like it could have been avoided had they just parked the damn shuttle in a shuttle bay. Like the entire thing, and it's like they go for a specific person that is trusted by Maz Kanata, and then just grab some other random person in the process?
I mean, they didn't,
Couldn't
but
get that guy.
They didn't grab some random other person. He grabbed them at the end.
It's true.
Yeah, it's just...
I mean, they would have had to basically leave empty-handed if it weren't for just randomly getting rescued by him.
By Benicio
Right.
del Toro.
Had they parked the damn shuttle, they wouldn't have gotten accosted on the floor of the casino.
It's also true.
They didn't have time, man.
Or
Also,
money.
They
not
didn't
that
have
money.
credits, yeah. Do you know what the parking probably costs?
I mean, don't get me wrong, like, I love Rose as a character. She is amazing. And there's a lot of stuff that happens in Canto Bight that I like. But that sequence with, like, I don't know, like, it just bothered me the way that played out.
I feel like that means it was successful. Because I feel like that scene is just this, that scene itself, that whole sequence is the like, hey, bad plans don't work. It's just bad plan after bad plan, and they don't work.
And why did the shuttle have a hyperdrive?
I mean, X-Wings have hyperdrives.
Yeah, but like, wasn't that just like an escape pod type thing?
No.
Okay.
Also, wouldn't you want your escape pod to have a hyperdrive?
I don't think most of them do, because hyperdrives are bigger than escape pods typically.
Sure.
So this also might be the first movie where the coolest moment was given to somebody who is not a Force user at all, and for most of the movie is not really considered very heroic.
Oh yeah,
but
and was introduced in the movie.
Yes, General Holdo launching to hyperspace on Snoke's ship was so good.
So this afternoon, well, actually, it was like we went to 11:30 matinee, and at that point, when that happens and the audio goes silent, you could hear this little kid down near the front go, "Whoa!" It was like the best moment.
I basically did that.
He did.
Yeah, that was an instance where I was super glad that I saw the movie on opening night in a giant theater full of nerds, because the first night that happened and it was just silent or like gasps.
Yeah.
And then when I saw it last night, I saw it in my tiny local theater with a bunch of hicks, and they were hooting and yelling things at the screen during that silence, and I was kind of mad.
I super appreciate the our local theater going clientele for Star Wars movies, because the opening credits start, there's applause because people are super excited, and then as soon as as right before the first set of like actual story text appears in the opening crawl, they're quiet. The applause ends.
I also like that the manager of our theater came in and was like, "Hey, none of my staff have seen this movie, so when you're leaving, please don't talk about it."
Yeah. This movie is the thing I've been telling everybody is this movie is great. It is not what you're expecting. Whatever you were expecting, this is not it.
See, I don't know, like, for me, it is a movie full of amazingly great moments, but the movie as a whole kind of feels like a mess. Like, the stitching together and the connective tissue of those moments feels just not quite right. And I guess it's mostly because the pacing feels weird.
Oh, the pacing feels very weird.
It
feels like there's a lot of moments where... Okay, so this is 2.5 hours. I feel like they could have easily edited out 30 minutes and we would have had a better feeling movie as a result.
I'm not sure what they would have edited out for 30 minutes worth.
I don't know what they could have... Like, this movie was weird, and it did have some weird pacing, but it was so packed full of stuff. I mean, I was talking with someone about this, and they, like, yes, it's not all epic lightsaber battles, but in between the huge set-piece moments, it's still just crammed full of a different kind of epic moments. It's just that they're either hugely important character building or world building. You know, this sort of, I mean, even just that sort of calm sequence about this is what the Force is. And that was one of my spouse's favorite moments of the entire movie.
That was a great shot. I mean, I know exactly what 30 minutes they cut if they were to cut 30 minutes, but it would lose so much. I mean, you basically cut Finn from the movie would be the 30 minutes that you'd cut and get rid of the entire casino thing and Rose as a character, and I think the movie would lose ridiculously lots from that.
Yeah, I mean, I would not want to lose Rose as a character, but it also kind of had this feeling of having two different movies that were spiral-arounding each other.
Only two?
Until you...
Yeah.
You mean like a Star Wars movie?
I mean...
Which Star Wars movie
let's be clear,
doesn't have that?
That is one of the problems with Episode 1.
Yeah. I mean, it's honestly a problem with a lot of Star Wars movies.
I mean, that is also, like, the structure of Episode 5, Empire.
Yep. And to some extent, Jedi.
I actually think this one does a better job of sticking the landing than those.
See, and I guess I don't, because it feels like in Empire there's like a thread of action all the way through.
Well,
like things kind of make sense all the way through.
Jumps back and forth between Han and Leia and Luke for most of the movie.
Yeah.
Whereas
Luke is not doing a whole lot.
Yeah, but I mean, like, it feels like he did more on Dagobah than Rey did on whatever this island is.
I feel like he did much less on Dagobah.
I feel like there was much less going on Dagobah. Like, I think that Luke individually did more on Dagobah than Rey individually does on the island planet. But I think as far as storytelling that happens on Dagobah versus that island planet, there's so much more here. But you want to know more about what's going on with Luke. And it doesn't matter what's going on with Yoda. Like, Yoda's a Jedi Master on Dagobah, and he's real clever, and that's all you need. Yeah, he's clever and old and a Jedi Master, and he's the only one left. And that's all you need to know.
And I think the other weird thing that I had going on the island is it didn't necessarily feel like that was actually Luke. Instead, it felt like it was Mark Hamill being Mark Hamill. I don't know if that makes sense at all.
I can't help you with that one. That was like perfectly Luke for me. It was older, embittered Luke.
So Mark Hamill.
But like, it was
I get that it's a little hard to unentangle those two, as that's kind of been his thing.
Yeah, like his performance with Luke is just what he's like on every single talk show I've ever seen him been on. Like, all that's missing is him doing the Joker voice during that movie.
But like,
but
instead of earnest, he's bitter.
He brought so much emotion. I don't know, like,
I feel like he had some of the best acting in the movie.
Yeah.
I mean, and Carrie Fisher as Leia was Carrie Fisher, like, maybe even more so than she ever was in the prequels or in the original series. But she was incredible. Incidentally, on the topic of Leia, with maybe 5 or 6 wordless cuts to her right after a ship explodes in a space battle, makes those space battles go from like cool explosions to every explosion is a person dying.
Yeah, like every time one of the ships exploded,
it's heart-wrenching.
You can see that she could feel the death of the person that was actually having to man the ship as it went down.
And as you're as you get to the later part of the movie where they stop cutting to her every time it does that, you just feel it yourself. You're like, oh no.
Yeah, when they start shooting down the escaping shuttles. Yeah.
Wait, when they're shooting down the escaping shuttles, when they're shooting down and just that, it's just relentless.
I mean, this movie, for many reasons, is tangled up in such a sense of loss. And, I mean, the Resistance is losing so much, and, we have all lost Carrie Fisher, and you end up losing Luke Skywalker at the end, and it's just, I mean, it was brutal to sit through the first time, just emotionally, and it's one of the reasons why I wanted to go back and see it again right away, because I wanted to see how I felt about this movie once the shock of all of that wore off, and I knew what was coming, so I could brace myself and actually pay attention to everything that was happening instead of just emotionally cringing and crying constantly.
So I have to say, the projection sequence is amazing on second viewing, because there is a non-stop
first viewing, which is that he has the wrong lightsaber in his hand.
He's
right,
got the wrong lightsaber.
Right, and I registered
and he's not
that
leaving
mentally.
Footprints.
See, I didn't notice the footprints thing until the second viewing.
Yeah, he's not leaving footprints, and they give you like 3 shots to notice it, but you've got to be looking for it. And I was like, the second shot that came up where they saw him shifting his feet, I was like, why are they Oh.
So there's so many things there. One, he's wearing completely different outfit than he had on the island. Mm-hmm. 2, he's younger. Yep. He is actually physically younger in that shot. So he's his younger self before the events of the temple. Because if you look at the shots of him during the temple, he looks pretty much exactly the same as he did in that final battle. So that's the moment before he basically shattered. And then all of the footprints were just, it was amazing.
Yeah, well, and there's a moment, too, that, obviously didn't catch the first time around, but when he's sitting there with Leia on second viewing, there's absolutely a moment that passes between the two of them, just in their eyes. I mean, the acting is amazing. Just there's a look from Leia and sort of a half-nod response from Luke that is just very obviously they're the only one. She's totally in on what he's doing.
She's in on it.
Turns out she's in on a lot of things.
Uh-huh.
I mean,
turns out they don't make her a general for no reason.
And I still think Han was a latent Force sensitive.
I mean, this movie confirms it. He's Luke mentions that Han is haunting Ben.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
As a Force spirit.
Yeah.
Which, now he's got 2 Force spirits to haunt him. Well, maybe.
I don't know. It depends on how vindictive Luke is feeling.
Yeah. He definitely says, "See you around, kid."
My favorite moment, my favorite Leia moment, and it's cliche because it's just such an awesome moment, is when we do get the confirmation that yes, Leia is real strong in the Force. Not subtly, she is real good at it.
My favorite Leia moment from this movie is when she stuns Poe.
Yeah.
I mean, but I love the, yeah, I'm so powerful that I can pull myself back in after getting blown out an airlock, out of a shattered airlock window on a spaceship into space. Be mostly, I mean, kind of roughed up, but not horribly dead. And it doesn't matter. I've probably been able to do this for a while, but that's not what I'm here for. My Force abilities are secondary to what I'm actually doing. It's not the be-all, end-all. And that's really cool to see.
So another thing that, I would have probably changed is, instead of having a hyperspace tracker, I would have loved for them to have introduced an interdiction field in canon, to where basically they can't jump to light speed because they've got an interdiction field in place instead of we're going to track you through hyperspace. But that's minor. Like, that's just a me thing.
I think, again, I understand. I don't think that lets them tell the story they wanted to, which is this long extended chase sequence.
Well, they still could have done the long extended chase sequence. They just wouldn't have had the false jump to hyperspace the first time.
The problem is they wanted a solution that you couldn't fly out and blow up in an X-Wing. An interdictor is actually a solution you can fly out and blow up in an X-Wing.
I guess that's true. Best moment in the movie that I completely missed the first time is when the little kid at the very end force grabs a broom.
Oh yeah, that was so
like
good.
I did not notice that he pulled it to him with the force.
Oh, he doesn't quite reach all the way to it the first time.
Yeah, I saw that and I was like, oh
well,
yeah.
So part of it is like in order to get tickets on Thursday night, I had really shitty seats, so I was like on the front row, leaned back, like watching movie in bed kind of thing going on.
Yeah.
And you couldn't actually focus on the entire screen at once. So I missed a lot of little details on the first viewing. But yeah, like
that. Yeah,
our
whole theater just there was like a ripple gasp.
Yep, that happened this afternoon too.
The Force belongs to everyone, not just the Jedi.
Well, and I think part of that too, or at least my personal theory is the Jedi and the Sith kind of had a lock on the Force, and with them using it regularly, there wasn't a lot to go around. But now that it's been sitting untamed for so long, it's just dying to break out in anyone that is even vaguely Force sensitive.
Who knows? The Force is for everyone.
Well, there's certainly two people who are not using it anymore. Well, okay, maybe one of them still is.
I mean, who knows what Luke is up to?
I mean, I assume Luke is basically going to be the Obi-Wan for next movie.
Oh, I don't think so for a second.
Probably
really?
Getting pissed off at Yoda for, like, screwing with him with that Jedi tree.
Yoda,
when Rey had already stolen the books.
Yeah.
I love coming back. I love the return of Troll Yoda.
What's so great about it though is he says exactly that Rey stole them, but not in so many words.
She already has everything. There's nothing in there that she doesn't already have with her, I think is the line.
It's something like that, yeah.
No, I think Luke is going to be a Force spirit. I don't think he's going to be a mentor Force spirit. I think he is going to be there to drive Kylo Ren, like, to the brink.
Of what? Like, what? That's the thing for me is, like, I really want to know I could mostly be happy if this were the end, because I get it, but, like, what is Kylo Ren even motivated by anymore? Just, like, petulant whining? That's all he's got left.
Build another I mean, wait.
No, he's going to be obsessed with Rey.
Oh yeah. I mean, he already sort of was.
He was, but this is his real obsession now.
My wife's commentary about this movie when she saw it is that Luke never stopped being a whiny man-child.
It's true!
That's also true.
And so we have Kylo Ren, who is the villain we deserve.
Kylo Ren is so Anakin.
I think he's not, and that's the point.
He really wants to be so hard.
He wants to
No,
be,
I mean, like,
and he's channeling that energy, like, I mean, acting-wise, like...
He is Darth Angst.
Absolutely, like, channeling some of that same angst that Anakin had in the prequels.
Except
and
you can actually believe that he has it.
Yes.
For pretty good reasons.
Oh, and it's perfect.
But he's also just pathetic.
But dangerous.
He's pathetic and dangerous.
Yeah.
I love the whole Snoke boy in a mask thing.
Oh man, watching Snoke just relentlessly mock Kylo Ren was like, oh, okay. And then Rey just straight up rejects him. Like, well,
I mean,
he's not going to cry on Hux's shoulder. That's not going to go well. What a dysfunctional First Order remains.
I mean, she was willing to go along with him.
There.
Phasma will never die.
Phasma's never dying.
Like, Rey understands Kylo Ren though, like, and she wants him to join her, but he wants her to join him, and like to become a dark, like, his Sith by his side, and she's like, oh no, that's unacceptable.
So one of the things I liked about that particular scene that ties into what we were sort of talking about before, the whole basically he's standing there negging her, right? He's like, "You're from nothing. Your family is nothing. You're made of nothing. I'm this awesome Skywalker, but I care about you. You're important to me. So join me." And
she's like, F that.
Yeah, she's like, screw that. I'm out.
Like, you're a douche. And he is. He's just incredible. He's just like entitled, whiny mess.
With a really cool lightsaber.
He does have a cool lightsaber. I am hoping we get a light side version of that lightsaber from Rey built out of her staff.
Kind of.
Now that she has a cracked crystal that would also do that same thing.
I've been wanting to see Rey with a lightsaber staff.
Yeah. I want to see Rey with a double-sided lightsaber so bad.
And I'm pretty sure I was like, they're probably not going to do it. But watching her continue to staff fight, I was like, oh, nope, we might.
No, it's what she's still comfortable with.
Yep. Man, what a theme, right? Like, she continues growing and adapting, and Kylo Ren doesn't, and that's why she wins.
I think the thing down in the cave was basically a giant chunk of kyber crystal.
I have no idea what that thing was down in the cave.
It was a cave. The hero has to go to the cave and confront themselves.
And the cave is strong with the dark side. Wait, where have I heard this before somewhere? Whatever.
I feel
Somebody
like...
referred to it as the blowhole of doom.
This was a lot darker.
Other people, well, sort of.
I mean, so...
It was bleaker, I think.
Well, because in the first time, Luke goes down there, he defeats Darth Vader and discovers, like, himself underneath it all. And this, like, but he discovers something. Like, there's a darkness revealed. This is, like, nihilism. She goes down there in search of answers and finds nothingness.
Yeah.
I don't think that's true.
Well,
she went down there in search of answers about who she is, and the answer is your past is not important, your family is not important, who you are is important.
Interesting.
Yeah, but who you are is really important.
Rey is very uninterested in the concepts of light side and dark side, other than what it means to, like, how it impacts the world.
Oh, you know what Rey? You know what no one has said to Rey in any movie?
Something about controlling emotions.
Yeah. Rey is real mad in a lot of these scenes.
And she's using the Force when she is mad.
Yeah.
I had really high hopes going into this movie that we would see the proper introduction of the Grey Jedi, and that Luke had somehow gone to find the happy medium. And I still feel like we'll probably get Grey Jedi out of Rey, but
does not know happy medium.
I was gonna say, notably, Luke has been spending all of his times with old, early Jedi texts. So I'm thinking maybe he's been, like, self-flagellating over his own, like, dalliances with the darkness.
Right.
Yeah.
That's absolutely the direction this went. I was hoping it was going to go in a different direction.
I don't know. Like, I feel like Luke failed too much when the stakes were too high for him to have the
answers.
Yeah, for him to hold the answers.
Well, I mean, I feel like it's probably not even his personal failing. I feel like it's a simple fact of you cannot have the light without the dark. And the stronger you try and make the dark, the stronger that's going to, in essence, make the light. Or, yeah, I said that backwards. But so by him trying to focus on light side only with no one else out there really being a Force user, he was going to push someone to the dark as a result.
See, I also kind of feel like this movie is a repudiation of that.
Yeah.
I don't know about that. I mean, there was
there's an absolute duality
with Snoke about, darkness rises in Kylo Ren and light to meet it. He thought it was going to be Luke, but it was Rey.
Yeah, but I think that this is there's a bunch here that suggests that Snoke has a really good game face, but isn't actually as experienced as he lets on, which would make sense since he would have to have risen after Vader and Palpatine, and there's time, but there's not that much time.
And more importantly, the Force belongs to all of us.
I think Snoke talks a really good game, but
Snoke was insanely powerful though.
Sure.
Like some of the stuff he pulled off, he would have to be extremely powerful to do it.
But he wasn't. He was outsmarted by his apprentice that he brags about being able to read the thoughts of.
Yeah, but that's the trait of every Dark Master, is to underestimate their pupil because they think they have a surefire way of keeping them from betraying them.
Also, there is the fact that Kylo Ren just actively broadcasts his thoughts. Like, he is so bad at mind read, which is good for Hux.
He needs a class in occlumency.
Yeah, like, he tried to read Rey's mind when she was an untrained Force user, and she picked up on his thoughts. He is bad at this.
Yeah. Well,
He's self-obsessed.
Mm-hmm.
So, of course he projects his own ego everywhere. But, like, real good for Hux, because that guy really wants to kill him.
There's probably some amazing Kylo Ren and Hux fanfic after this movie.
I am sure.
Thanks for that.
Also, the First Order is so dysfunctional now.
But they still... This is about to go political. They still control all of the power!
Yeah. Well, yeah. They're super dysfunctional control of the power. That's not good for people. But it also... I also wonder why is Phasma following these people around?
Because they control all of the power?
Because they give her nice toys to play with.
I'm pretty sure Phasma could be running the show better than Hux.
That's probably accurate.
There are probably a lot of people who could be running the show better than Hux.
It's fair.
Again, I'm pretty sure Hux is there because he was, like, close with Kylo, and Kylo had a lot of power.
I don't think that's... Hux and Kylo have never really gotten along all that well.
I mean, again, trustworthy sources and all that. Snoke claims that you will have somebody who is that incompetent at the top.
So I've not read the novels that have come out, but I was listening to something earlier today, and it hinted that Hux was somehow pivotal in the actual creation of the First Order and the rising of Snoke to power, and that's why he has his position.
I guess we'll have to wait for the novelization of Battlefront 2, whenever that happens, if that happens.
Like, if Battlefront 2 actually fills in the gap and tells me where the hell Snoke came from, I will buy Battlefront 2 and play it.
I know its campaign is about the founding of the First Order.
Like, that maybe makes me want to play it, but not super bad yet. I mean, because it's still that game. Maybe somebody has a Let's Play I can watch. But I guess that's the thing that, like, I really want to know how the hell this Splinter faction turned into the First Order and got as powerful as it did.
So there's actually a bunch of that. If you read Lost Stars, there's a bunch of that.
Which is amazing, by the way. You should read Lost Stars.
Yeah, like, as a side note, Lost Stars is probably my favorite Star Wars novel. Like, again, full stop. Somebody listening was just like, but Thrawn, and I won't go into that, but I don't like the Thrawn series at all.
Oh man,
because it's okay. Slight aside. I'll keep it short. I don't like the Star Wars extended universe that is the continuing adventures of Luke and Leia and Han Solo and Chewbacca, because
that's all I ever really wanted.
I've seen that story. I know that story. I want to hear about all of the other people's stories. I want to hear about the stories of the people who aren't these super special movie characters. I want to hear about, like, the other Jedi, the other people who are, like, learning how the Force is working in other unexplored pockets of the galaxy. I don't want to hear more continuing adventure stories, and so I never got into any of those.
I mean, my problem is I desperately wanted more about our main heroes. I don't care about random other people in the universe, but, like, I never read the Thrawn books until very recently. I just read the first one. It's not that great. I'm sorry. Like, it's not that interesting. I think Thrawn is an amazing character.
Yeah, Thrawn is a great character.
But I think
part of that
great.
I think part of the problem for me is, like, I cannot separate the nostalgia of reading them for the first time with the actual novel, because those were literally the first expanded universe books, period. You had some really weird Han Solo books in the 70s, and then you had the Thrawn books, and there's a gap between them. They were the first of the expanded novels and, like, the first new adventures of, you know, my favorite characters getting to go off and do things again. So
yeah, like, I have no doubt if I had read those books before the prequels came out, I probably would have loved them, because of what they did in terms of filling in a gap that I desperately wanted more Star Wars in.
And the thing is, like, I have not read them since high school. Like, I know the story, and I'm not going to go reread them, but probably they would annoy the shit out of me if I went and reread them. There's a lot of things that are just timing. Like, if you didn't read it when it was new, it's probably going to annoy the shit out of you because your tastes have changed and the world has changed around it. But, like, I am also, I don't know, like, usually when it comes to a sequel, especially with, like, a video game, literally all I want is my characters to go on another adventure.
Yeah.
And it's the same way with movies. Like, all I want is my characters to go on another adventure, and if it introduced me to new characters, then awesome.
Yeah, and I want the torch to get passed.
For this series, I want the torch to get passed, because straight up, I like this canon of characters. But
spend some time introducing them, you can't know that.
Yeah. And if you spend too much time with the old characters, it's like whoever the fifth and sixth person that you pick up in an RPG, you never use them.
Well,
it's too late.
And like, in all honesty, I feel like we could have passed the torch maybe a little faster with this series. I'm kind of troubled about what's going to happen with Leia, because I feel like there were several points at which we could have potentially lost Leia, and it would have maybe been better than whatever they're going to do with 9, where they say they're not going to use CGI and they're not going to use any additional footage. So her passing is going to happen off screen and just get talked about.
She's just going to go. She's going to become a politician and vanish into the side. I think.
Like, I'm curious to see what will happen with that. I am supremely glad that they did not kill off Leia in this movie.
Yeah, I thought they were going to.
I really, like, I thought they were going to, and it was just, like, it would have been crushing. It was hard enough to find emotional connection with some intensely emotional moments of loss, like losing Luke Skywalker, because my heart was so wrapped up in mourning of Carrie Fisher, and every time I saw her on screen, I was, like, crying. And if they had killed off Leia in this movie, nothing else would have registered for me emotionally for the rest of it.
Yeah.
I guess the weird thing about the Luke thing is, like, I didn't really register it as a loss, because he's just as capable of being present now as he ever was. Like, he's probably more capable of being present now that he's a Force ghost than he was as a hermit on an island.
I mean, Ray mentioned that it was peaceful. Like, he was going having accomplished something.
Because I'm thinking about him having accomplished something. I really, really like the new lightsaber battles. I feel like they hit a really great happy medium between the kind of iconic but not very combat feeling lightsaber duels in the original trilogy and the, like, crazy insane stuff in the prequels, so that they're, like, fun to watch and feel like, you know, visceral combat without being, like, crazy choreographic.
Just spectacle.
Yeah, spectacle. And it's so cool to watch the the final lightsaber duel, which is only sort of a duel, because it wouldn't have worked without the new choreography style, because it perfectly blends those two. And watching Kylo and Rey fight the Imperial Guard dudes, whatever they call them, Royal Guard.
Yeah, that was great.
The Royal
Guard,
Praetorian.
Yeah, the Praetorian Guard.
Praetorian Guard. Yeah,
like those. That fight scene is great, especially the end of it. The like flick on, flick off.
Well, I mean, that's also how Snoke dies. Is just get a lightsaber aimed the right way and turn it on. So Snoke's character's design, now that I'm thinking about it, also kind of tells a story of sort of it's ostentatious opulence. It's not. It is somebody who doesn't know what to do with the power they have. Like he walks around in a shimmery golden,
ridiculous gold robe,
like like loungewear, like yeah. Like nightwear.
Whatever, man. He's comfortable.
But like he does. This is what he thinks looks regal.
His room of all red.
Well, he inherited that room. Like he is copying the aesthetic of Palpatine, like the decor of Palpatine. Otherwise, he would have changed his Praetorian Guard into something else.
I still feel like Snoke was probably one of the Emperor's acolytes. Like, always watching in the shadow, always kind of wishing that they had the power of the Emperor. And then it's true now that that's a thing in the world.
Yeah, I'm actually really wondering if I'm really wondering if the place where we're gonna find out where Snoke came from is actually gonna be Rebels. They got the same head shape.
Oh right.
Yeah.
That guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that dude wasn't this tall. Like, I don't know why the hell he's like this giant, because he doesn't line up with any of the races that I can think of off the top of my head.
What do you mean giant?
He's massive. He looms over people.
No.
He's not that big. That was one of the interesting things about this one. Like, you got that sense from the hologram from the first one, but, like, in person, he's pretty much just a dude.
He's shorter than Kylo Ren. He looms over Kylo Ren, who's kneeling.
He's shorter than Rey, I want to say.
Yeah, I don't know if I can't remember if he's shorter than Rey, but he's definitely shorter than Kylo Ren.
That's impossible to tell because he's seated.
Yeah,
no, he stands when he pulls her over to him. I'm pretty sure he's shorter than Rey.
I got the impression that he was pretty tall.
He talks a really good game. I know he's not that tall. Like, yeah, he's like weirdly short and spindly.
I read an article about how this is sort of a repudiation of some of the J.J. Abrams stuff.
Oh, yeah. I agree.
Like, a lot of the mysteries that J.J. Abrams set up, this movie had very little interest in, like... Maintaining the mystery. Like, they answered the mystery, and they did not care about them.
Yeah.
I'm kind of curious what's going to happen with J.J. Abrams doing Episode 9.
Like, I'm a little concerned there. I think it'll end up being okay, but, I'm nervous about the kid playing tug-of-war over his toys kind of thing. I guess we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, Johnson has the next trilogy, so...
I'm really, so on board with that.
I'm super
really
on board
looking
with
forward to it.
What is the next trilogy?
Who knows?
It's gonna be good, though.
He's got a Star Wars trilogy.
Good on him. He's earned it.
Yeah, right? But I'm really looking for... I'm also looking forward to the Han Solo movie, because I feel like they're proving they can do different things with Star Wars. Like, jump to different genres and try out new things and take risks. Like, this movie has so many risks. If episode 7 was playing it safe, and it kind of was, like, this one is so not. And it opens up with it. The whole holding for Hux thing is this, like, it's so different from any scenes you've seen in Star Wars before. It's like
it's like a
it's like a warning.
Can he hear me? believe he's tooling with you, sir.
That sequence was so amazing.
So funny.
Like the whole thing. Because, sure, that was funny, but then it goes into, like, truly epic space battle scene on the top of the dreadnought.
Yeah, it goes into it. That segues into epic space battle scene. Segues into, hey, Pyrrhic victories aren't victories.
But man, the bombing sequence was cool. Like the very end of it. Yes, it was horrible that everyone died, but it was such a, I don't know, like, it was one of those awesome moments when, like, I thought she was going to drop the remote, and then she didn't. She caught it at the last moment, and she managed to drop the payload and blow the thing up.
Yeah, and they took out a dreadnought, and they lost
all of their bombers.
All of the bombers, so many people. And it's like, man, the themes of sacrifice are interesting in this movie. Because Poe is being a hero and sacrificing other people for heroics. Versus Holdo, who is always trying to figure out a way that spares as many people's lives. Until the very end when it's only her and pulls off something that sacrifices herself and shatters the enemy. Oh, man.
But I guess the thing is like, none of the rest of this movie would have worked had they not killed that dreadnought.
That's also technically true.
I mean, like, they would have jumped, the dreadnought would have jumped too, it had more than enough range to take them out.
Did it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It had giant cannons on the bottom, yes.
I mean, like, it could have hit planets.
Oh.
It was basically 2 Death Star cannons on the bottom, or like the old style Death Star cannons.
Smaller, though.
Yeah, like miniaturized ones, like kind of like the battering ram cannon that they had on the planet. But still, it would have more than taken them out. And they would have gotten one jump, it would have come out of hyperspace, and fired. And the only reason why that it didn't fire before is because of Poe's stalling. So sure, it was a Pyrrhic victory, but the rest of the movie wouldn't have existed were that bombing sequence not at least somewhat successful.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, is that Poe isn't always, like, the movie, it is not that Poe is always wrong. It's just that he kind of returns the same solutions over and over again and doesn't adapt, even when they're not the best idea.
But I think this basically gets back to the thing I had said earlier, where there's so many sequences that I just absolutely love, and the knitting them together feels messy. I mean, there's definitely way more good than bad, but it's enough that it bothered me on the second viewing. And it didn't on the first. I was completely, enthralled by what was going on, and it was only because I knew the story that I started noticing things that bugged me. I think the big takeaway for me, more than anything, though, is I love the growth of the characters that happened over the movie.
I really like where Finn is going as a character.
Honestly, okay, so this is a sequence that I feel like he should have died.
Oh, it would have felt so pointless.
No, it was this great character arc.
But it flies in the face of the whole theme of this movie.
Yeah.
I don't feel like it. Like, I feel like all of these characters had a character flaw that they overcame. You had Poe, who was headstrong and brash and unwilling to accept any options, and by the end, he had turned into a decent general.
Yeah.
You had Finn, that has been running away his entire life, or wanting to run away since he got back his freedom, and he was willing to stay and fight and sacrifice himself for the greater good.
But he was willing, and that's what's important.
I see that one differently. Finn was a coward looking after his own skin and dragged into things because he didn't have a choice. And then he found something to fight for, to stand up and fight for. And in that arc, learned that standing up and fighting for it doesn't mean dying stupidly. It's not a switch.
I mean, I feel like if he could have taken the cannon out, it wouldn't have been dying stupidly.
But he wasn't going to. That was the point.
I mean, if he flew the ship up into the cannon...
Even if he was, it's not like help was actually coming.
Yeah.
So they still needed to leave.
I mean, don't get me wrong, I didn't necessarily want Finn to die, but it feels like that would have been a reasonable arc for that character. I mean, I don't feel like we're getting out of this trilogy with everyone alive.
I mean, a lot of people have already died. It's just the old guard.
Yeah, but I don't feel like the entire new guard is going to make it out alive.
I think they all do.
I feel like there's a reasonable shot.
Like, I'm actually gonna go out. I think they all do, including Kylo Ren.
Do you think Kylo Ren is redeemed?
No.
Okay.
No, man. I want to see the movie where Kylo Ren is redeemed, and it's just like Rey and Kylo Ren like destroying the crap out of a First Order that's run by Hux.
I see Hux taking over after the events of this movie.
I mean, I don't think what I just said is going to happen, but I would totally watch that movie.
I would love to see it. You would have to somehow get Kylo Ren over himself.
So I'm gonna throw my theory out there. This movie comments that Star Wars is a cycle that the galaxy continues to be in over and over and over again. I don't know if Abrams is going to pull it off. The thing that makes me doubt this is that it's Abrams, but I think it ends with the First Order surrenders to the Republic because they run out of resources, and it ends in diplomacy. It ends with a tense diplomacy, but it ends a constant galactic war in which people who are literally at each other's throats have to find neutral ground and establish a peace a peace among differences, because otherwise what happens next is the same cycle that happened between episode 6 and 7, where the Second Order rises and tears across the galaxy. I think episode 9 is going to be about breaking the cycle.
I would love to see some movies that aren't about like two sides fighting a war. I mean, I guess it's in the name, Star Wars, but there's so much other stuff you could do that doesn't have to be two sides fighting each other.
I mean...
But I guess that's what the off stories are about?
You could also have, you can have a lot of really interesting stuff go on when there's a Cold War, or when there's outside forces threatening this part of the galaxy. Hello, Mandalorians.
We haven't had a Mandalorian really uprising in a very, very long time.
Like, there's plenty of other conflicts that can come up, but
please don't invent some random force immune bug things from outside the galaxy to come up with, please.
Yeah,
we don't need that storyline again.
No, definitely not.
It's been a really long time since there's been a Mandalorian crusade.
And there's plenty of interesting, like, hey, these nations are not actively at war, but certainly aren't the friendliest.
I don't know, I feel like the saga will always be about dark versus light, and the side movies will be other things.
But that's the thing, this movie isn't about dark versus light. That's what I'm so excited about.
It's about good versus evil, but
yes,
not necessarily dark versus light.
Yeah.
There is the silent shot where Holdo is tearing across, where they do this brilliant thing with the lighting, and it's this bright cut of white light is her ship, and they almost cast all of the Empire's ships in this starry black look as they get cut in half. So there's the very real visual good versus evil. It's just not dark side versus light side.
And it's not these people are all the dark side, these people are all the light side.
But it is the First Order is evil and the Resistance is good. Is fighting against that evil.
I did really like the Gareth Edwards cameo, which was the director of Rogue One.
Oh, I didn't catch that. I know there are a bunch of weird cameos in this movie.
So this one's actually really fitting because of all the salt that happened over Rogue One. When they're in the trenches and the guy reaches down and tastes the white powder and says it's salt, you see a weird look from a guy beside him, and that was Gareth Edwards, the director of Rogue One. Also, thing I like. It looks super familiar to me, but on Kennedy's Dreadnought, the first officer guy that's relaying orders or like updating him on status of things off the monitor is the guy from the Expert comedy video, where he's drawing 6 red lines, some of them with green ink, some of them with clear ink.
Oh, I love other little detail. I loved the old Rebel Alliance tech in that base. That was
It's just been sitting there abandoned.
Yeah, I was like, oh, that stuff looks like it's from the 7-0.
The porgs are adorable, but man, I really like the crystalline fox things.
Oh man,
Yeah.
I love the bait and switch with the trailer versus the actual porgs, where it's like the trailer shows the Millennium Falcon porg scene, but the very first time you actually see Chewbacca with any porgs, he's having a snack.
He's trying to eat them.
And he's
And
like, they're horrified.
I wonder if they're still nesting in the ship.
I mean, probably they were still there while they were having that last battle and drawing the TIE fighters away.
Probably around.
Time to clear that stuff out.
And, yeah, there hasn't been any time to do anything about them, and would they really have just dumped them on that wasteland of a planet?
Oh, they did bring Frank Oz back as Yoda.
Yeah, Frank Oz was Yoda in this one.
I mean, like, other little stuff that I found personally amazing. I know some of the stuff was in the previous one a little bit, but, like, seeing that first epic space battle, like, oh, there's not just human dudes and aliens piloting these ships, like, there's a bunch of women. They're equals with Poe, like, doing their thing.
Oh, I love the A-Wing pilot. She's so awesome.
She's so great. I was already tearing up at that point at the beginning of the movie, because it's one of the things that I always like complain about. Like, there's all these X-Wings, there's all these great pilots. Like, where the hell are the women? Like, there they are. No big deal.
There they are. Yeah.
I love the bomber design. Like, I think that's a great design for a bomber.
Like, I think Bombers in Space is conceptually a little bit silly, but like,
It's
I think
amazing.
This is a cool ship.
Look, it's amazing. And I love the fact that, like, basically they only needed to get one across. And there's all these weird callbacks to the what was it, B-51 bombers? Like, and how many of them died trying to get to their target in World War II.
I was a little sad that those weren't actual B-Wings, but they were still really cool ships.
The design of B-Wings doesn't actually make sense as bombers.
No. Well, I mean, the B-Wing...
Neither did the Y-Wing.
The B-Wing
That's
is not a
fair.
bomber the way that ship is a bomber. I mean, the B-Wing has a bunch of
They
torpedo
describe it as
bay.
one.
Yeah, well, yes, it's a bomber because it's in space and they shoot torpedoes. There aren't bombs in a B-Wing.
I guess you can only use that sort of thing while actually, orbiting a planet.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you want more of that, there's a whole book about Rose and her sister and the Bomber Squadron.
Oh, sweet. Is it good?
I've just started it. I'm not quite sure how I feel about it yet, but I'm not very far in.
That being
Basically,
said,
I just want more of like who Rose is and where she came from, so I'm all about it no matter what.
I love Rose.
That's
She's
fair.
so great.
I will say, on the topic of bombers in space, like, all you need are some magnets and to aim. And if you've got a big enough target, like, you're probably okay. I don't know if that's the most efficient
They
way
were
to...
near an actual planet.
Sure, but they were a lot closer to a big ship.
Gravity is not a strong force, generally speaking. You need a planet.
Yeah, well, that's why I say that's why you like accelerate those things with magnets, like a railgun. It totally makes sense.
No.
It works
Look,
physically.
I'll
it's just
give
not
it-
efficient.
Look,
I'll give it to him because that scene was cool. But the whole bombers thing only works near enough to a planet.
Ships don't make noise in space either, so we're just gonna have to accept the fact that they have space bombers.
There are a whole bunch of random cameos in this movie, notably Lily Cole, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and Billy Lord.
There's a bunch of people from Game of Thrones playing roles in this movie.
I feel like there were a bunch of people who are like,
hey, can I have a role in that movie, please?
Yeah. Like, I don't know what Joseph Gordon-Levitt is doing in this movie.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt is good friends with Ryan Johnson.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Is it's like he's in this movie for no reason other than he wanted to be in this movie.
I mean, he was the star of Looper.
Yeah.
Which is a movie that most people don't like, but I actually liked a lot.
Well, you can definitely see its touch in this movie, in all of the weird, like, Rey and Kylo scenes. There's some weird shooting going on here.
Oh, okay. You know who Joseph Gordon-Levitt is in the movie?
He's a voice.
Yeah, you know the little goblin guy with all the coins in the casino?
Oh my god.
That's Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
The happiest goblin ever when everything goes awry and he ends up with piles of coins.
That's Joseph Gordon-Levitt. I was like, wait, why does that character have a name? Who is that? Oh.
I mean, I hope they keep releasing little tidbits of information about the world, because, like, I want to know stuff about the caretakers. I want to know why the hell they're there.
They exist to be annoyed by Rey.
They are so annoyed by Rey.
I mean, to be fair, Luke blew up a building, too.
Incidentally, Rey has this masterful, tired of this bullshit facial expression that is employed to great end in this film. Also, one of my friends had the best commentary I've seen about the shirtless Adam Driver scene. She comments, Kylo Ren without a shirt is such an awkward piece of fan service that I couldn't even be serviced by it.
Based on my Twitter feed, though, it apparently does stuff for some folks.
Yeah, I mean, there are certainly people who are super into that. I am not one. Could you put on a cowl or something?
Like, I don't know, that sequence just reminded me too much of Burt Lancaster and From Here to Eternity. I mean, I guess we're just very used to seeing people insanely ripped when they're, don't have their shirt on. Another weird note, I thought he looked cooler with the weird metal mesh Band-Aid than having just the scar.
That was a really weird Band-Aid, though.
I mean, if he's going to be a Dark Lord of the Sith, he really needs to replace some stuff with metal pieces. I mean, it's needed at this point. Like, he can't really be a Dark Lord of the Sith because he still has a hand.
Oh, I love the bit with the helmet.
The bit where he smashes it?
Yeah, yes, the bit where he smashes it and the bit where Snoke is just making fun of him about the helmet.
I also want to know what the hell happened to the other Knights of Ren. Like, they're obviously other students of Luke that ran away with him, but were they the Praetorian Guard? Will we at some point see them? All of these things deeply matter to me.
I guess I understand, like, this movie was not terribly interested in a lot of the lore.
I think it was, but it wasn't interested in tidy answers to lore.
Sure.
Because realistically, it's probably there were one or two in the Praetorian Guard, and there's a couple other ones elsewhere, and maybe a couple other ones are searching for Luke because they feel like they made a mistake, and they all have their own different stories. They're not like a unified whole. But then that's another totally cool story you could have.
I guess the problem is this puts a lot of pressure on the ninth movie, because if it does not answer these questions, I will be pissed as fuck.
I have some bad news for you.
How'd you feel about
J.J. Abrams.
How did you feel about the ending to Lost?
Yeah, I mean, I got some. You may want to start preparing yourself now, because movie 9 is not going to answer those questions. Those questions are probably going to get answered in stories that continue as Star Wars continues to expand and sprawl.
I feel like you should be happy that you got any answers at all. Because somebody other than J.J. Abrams was directing this movie and was like, these are stupid mystery boxes. I'm going to just deflate them by answering them.
J.J. Abrams is not good at setting up and delivering on mysteries.
He's great at setting up, not so much on delivering.
That's fair.
Whereas this movie featured a twist that was brilliant and, like, so well earned. The Luke not actually being there, oh, beautiful.
Oh, that was great.
I was like literally like biting my knuckles. That happened.
Well, and what's great about it too is like the sequence of events actually follows what he would have had to have done to survive that. Because if you notice, while all the fire was happening, he was down in a meditative pose. Like, so you could see that more than likely that would have created basically like a force bubble around him. So that when he stands up, it's like, okay, yeah, no, he was totally meditating his way through that.
See, if this had been Abrams, the way that scene would have played out is, no, Luke is just that powerful in the Force to deflect all of those blasters, and then he single-handedly takes out all of the robots, and everybody's like, yay, the legend has returned. Now we take the fight to them. And Kylo Ren would have run away in a shuttle.
Like, there's at least part of me that would have been probably more satisfied with that ending.
I think I would have been if I hadn't seen this. Because now it's like, because if it had been, then it's like then I would know everything that happens in 9. And I don't know what's going to happen in 9, and I'm really excited about that.
See, I'm concerned because like all the cool things I thought would happen in this movie didn't.
Yeah.
No, that's not good.
That's awesome to me because it means that I can't predict the story. I can't just, it's not just like ticking check boxes. It means that this might be more complicated and more challenging than I normally expect from Star Wars. Because, man, what if you hadn't been Revan?
Man, spoilers. Spoilers! Spoilers! There are very few spoilers that I care about in video games. That's probably the one.
Look, the statute of limitations on that one has been up for a long time.
Yeah, like, I've never played those games, and I knew that a long time ago.
It's such a good reveal.
Yeah, and it didn't have to be.
It did not.
But it's so good that anything else would be disappointing. Because I don't want to watch old Luke. I don't want to watch old Luke, the turbo badass, flying around with force powers, fighting people, because I've seen that already and it sucked. I watched Yoda lightsaber fighting and it was dumb.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I expected Luke to have this big fight, but then somehow die in the process and actually die on the planet. But instead, he taxed his abilities and died back on the island with the green milk.
He went out peacefully. Now he has to be a happy Force ghost.
With one last shot of the twin suns.
That was so amazing.
That was a great shot.
The twin sun setting.
Can I just talk about how disturbed I am by the green milk?
You mean the blue milk?
No, it was green in this movie.
No, it's not blue milk.
It's green in this movie.
Just like lightsabers.
I mean, wait.
I've seen your routine. You're not busy.
Everyone has to come from somewhere. I'm from Jakku. Okay, that's pretty much the middle of nowhere. Says the boy from Tatooine.
Yeah.
Right?
It's like every time he had one of those retorts, it was just Mark Hamill to me.
Oh,
because
no,
those are the kind of things that he says all the time.
Oh man, but Luke has so many retorts in Star Wars. He's just outclassed by Han for most of it.
Yeah, but like Luke is also really snarky and goofy. Like Luke is super goofy in the original movies.
Yeah.
He's just also very earnest. And it doesn't make sense for this Luke to be earnest.
Yep. This Luke is embittered. This movie is so earnest, though. I'm excited that Disney is learning from the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I was commenting to Kodra and Ash earlier that I love that this movie doesn't undermine emotional moments with jokes, and it's really unironically genuine. Like it doesn't nod and wink at it being subversive. It's just subversive when it is. And otherwise, it's totally upfront about what it is and what it's doing. It doesn't have ulterior motives. It isn't creating a bunch of mystery boxes for you to guess at. It leaves you with, rather than episode 7, which sort of left you with a bunch of mystery boxes to guess at, this doesn't leave you with mystery boxes to guess at so much as ways to let your imagination run wild that it sets up for you.
Yeah, I'm not so much worried about stuff that happened in the past. Like, oh, who is that guy? Where did they come from? I'm now super curious about what the hell are they going to do next?
Yeah, what happens now? What else is going on? What's next?
Is that boy going to get some training? Is he going to be a new Force user?
How many more like him are there?
Are we going to see an outpouring of the Force?
I think there will be an outpouring of the Force. Like, I feel like the Force hasn't been utilized, and now it's basically boiling over.
Or was that what Luke was doing? Was Luke giving the Force back to everyone?
No.
No.
I'm with you there. I don't think so.
I don't think
Luke was
has
hiding
any
because
say.
he was scared.
Yeah, I don't think Luke has any say in what happens to the Force. I think, like, the Force is with everybody, and it's gonna spread.
I mean, it would be kind of cool if there was, like, this galaxy-wide mass awakening of latent Force powers.
I mean, it may be happening just because there's nobody actively hunting them anymore, like what was happening under Vader or before Vader by the Jedi Order.
Yeah, I mean, you had two different schemes that weren't great for the individual Force users.
Yeah.
It's basically like, be killed or, live a monastic life. But what I always wanted was the canon to explore the Gray Jedi and the Green Jedi.
I don't think it's going to.
I don't know or care what those things are. And I think there's enough. I mean, I know about the Gray Jedi, but I like what this cinematic universe has already given me to chew on. And just the idea that you don't have to be a Jedi. You could just use the Force. And sometimes you use it for good things, and sometimes you use it for bad things. But you're not going to automatically become 100% dark side because you use the Force in anger once.
Yeah. And, maybe some other groups will form with different philosophies on how they use the Force.
Also, it doesn't matter that, like, Rey immediately went to the dark side.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, Rey's drawn to the dark. Okay.
Yep. Okay.
That doesn't mean she's not going to be a good person.
Yep. Exactly. And even Luke has trouble handling that. But she's fine. Luke's wrong.
And I think he can only handle that because he saw what happened the first time that he reacted to that. He basically really fucked up his nephew.
Yeah.
So while they will get edited out, the gaps and silences are growing. So it seems that we're starting to wind down on this topic.
A little bit.
Any final parting thoughts about The Last Jedi?
It was good. It made my brain hurt, and I never expected to be that funny.
It was not anything like what I expected, and though I would have vehemently told you otherwise before going to see it, I am so glad it was not anything like what I expected.
I mean, I feel like I ended up taking the counter stance a lot, but in the grand scheme of things, I really did like this movie. It has some of the best moments of any Star Wars movie. It's just, I guess, I think the other two modern Star Wars movies that we've got, I liked a lot better.
I like this a lot more than Rogue One, because I was not the biggest fan of Rogue One, which we kind of went over on this podcast.
Yeah, I like this better than Rogue One.
But, I mean, all of this said, like, it's still up there in my echelon of Star Wars films. There's just a mass drop-off towards the bottom that makes it seem like it's lower than it should be.
It is amusing how some of the quotes are meta-narratives on the story, like Luke Skywalker saying, "This is not going to go the way you think."
Yep.
Because it sure doesn't.
I feel like basically you should definitely go see it. There are some people that don't like it. There are some people that do like it. I definitely liked it. And I definitely think this is one of those you should go see it in the theater movies, because there's a lot of things that will probably be lost in scale on the small screen.
I think even if you go see it, and even if you don't like it, I think there's enough there for it to have been worth seeing, even if you come out not liking it.
And on that note, next week we will record a normal show, I think, or next week we off. Next week we're off.
Next week we're definitely off.
Yeah, next week we're off. The next week is probably up in the air, but I think we might be able to pull that out.
I'll be around.
We'll figure it out.
We'll see.
Yeah.
But anyway, hopefully you enjoyed the show, and we will see you at some point in the near future. Good night.
Good night.
See
Good
ya.
night.
Good night.